I was standing in our kitchen in Dallas, holding a small envelope with printed tickets, 2 flights, a spa package, and a reservation at a Sedona resort that took me 3 months of overtime to afford. Our 10th anniversary. I thought it would surprise her. Maybe soften whatever edge had crept between us lately. Jessica, my wife, was scrolling on her phone at the counter, one leg tucked under the other like nothing could touch her. That familiar icy calm was already setting in. "I booked us a trip," I said, offering the envelope like it still meant something. She didn't even glance at it. "Go alone. I don't care." The words landed with surgical coldness. No pause, no blink, just that crisp detachment she'd perfected over the years. I stared at her, the silence between us humming. "You don't care?" She kept scrolling, like I hadn't spoken at all. That's when it happened. Something inside me cracked, but it didn't shatter. It sharpened. I smiled. Not wide, just enough. "That's okay," I said, sliding the tickets back into my coat. "I'm not going alone." That finally got her attention. Her eyes flicked up, annoyance curling at the edges. "Oh, taking a colleague?" I tapped a few keys on my phone, then held it to my ear. "Ashley?" "Yeah, hey. Change of plans. The trip's back on. You still want to go?" Her voice came through the speaker, bright, warm. "You serious?" "I'm already packed." Jessica froze. Ashley, her best friend. The one she'd sworn wasn't a threat. The one who'd been checking in on me during those long, silent stretches of marriage like some accidental lighthouse. Jessica used to laugh off the idea that I'd even notice Ashley. Maybe that's why she never hid how close they were. Now her smile vanished. "You're not actually." "Mark, what the hell?" I ended the call and slipped the phone into my pocket. "You said go alone. I'm honoring that." Her mouth opened, closed, then opened again. But this time, the words spilled like venom. "You are not going anywhere with her. She's my friend, not your—" "What? Your little rebound?" I just stared, letting the silence do the work. "Don't walk away from me, Mark." "I'm not," I said, stepping past her. "I'm walking toward peace." She flung the envelope across the room, and it fluttered like a broken bird. "You're disgusting." "No," I said quietly, hand on the doorframe. "I'm just done being humiliated in my own house." I walked out, not slamming the door behind me, just closing it with the soft finality of a man who's already gone. Funny thing is, this wasn't even about Ashley. Not entirely. It was about the fact that Jessica never imagined I'd have the guts to call her bluff. She'd spent years practicing emotional withdrawal like it was some form of power. I just rewrote the script. You ever seen someone stunned by their own game being used against them? That look in her eyes, it said it all. But I wasn't angry. Not anymore. Just empty. Calm. Because after all these years, I finally knew what I wanted: dignity. And maybe a little justice along the way. The smell of cinnamon hit me before I even stepped into the kitchen. French toast. The good kind, brioche, not the store-brand loaf we usually bought. She was using the pan with the buttered edges, and there was orange juice on the table, freshly squeezed. The last time Jessica cooked like this was 3 anniversaries ago. She turned just as I walked in, wearing that soft blue robe I once loved. "Morning," she said, voice light, almost sing-song. "I thought I'd make us breakfast." "Us?" I nodded once, not sitting yet. "Thanks." She smiled, too wide. "Coffee's fresh. 2 sugars, no cream. Just how you like it." I poured it myself, careful not to brush her as I reached past. She hovered beside the stove, flipping a slice of toast with a little too much force. "You know," she added, trying to sound casual, "Sedona does look beautiful. The Red Rocks, the spa. I was looking up the resort. That suite you booked? Gorgeous." I didn't say anything, just took a sip and sat down. The coffee was perfect, and I hated that. Jessica brought over a plate, set it down in front of me like we were hosting company. She sat across from me, folding her hands under her chin. I didn't realize how stressed I've been lately. Maybe a trip is exactly what we need. The gall of her. I met her eyes briefly. "You said you didn't care." She laughed, quick and brittle. "Oh, Mark. You know how I get." I snapped. "Doesn't mean I meant it." I took a bite of the toast, not because I was hungry, but because it filled the silence. She was watching me like a hawk. "Is Ashley really coming?" she asked, her tone laced with something sticky sweet. I didn't answer right away. I chewed slowly, then finally set my fork down. She said yes. Jessica's jaw clenched, but she kept her voice smooth. And you're okay with that? Going on a trip with your wife's best friend? She's not your best friend anymore, I said flatly. The air chilled a bit. She let out a fake laugh, like we were bantering. You always did have a weird sense of humor. I'm not joking. Her smile faltered, but only for a second. Look, I know I've been difficult. Things haven't exactly been perfect between us, I get it. But don't throw away 10 years over a bad night. I looked up at her, really looked, and for the first time in years, I felt nothing. No heat, no anger, no pull. You threw it away when you stopped seeing me. Jessica blinked, caught off guard. That's not fair. No, I said, rising slowly from my chair. It's not, but it's true. She stood too, her voice shaking just slightly. You're really going, aren't you? I nodded, rinsing my plate in the sink. Flight's at 2. She leaned against the counter, arms folded, lips tight. You'll regret this. I dried my hands and turned to her, meeting her eyes without flinching. Maybe, but at least I'll feel something again. I walked past her, up the stairs, every step echoing louder than the last. Behind me, the kitchen went still. No dishes clinking. No footsteps. Just the quiet sound of someone realizing their grip was slipping fast. And me? I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. Just steady. For the first time in months, I was steady. I folded each shirt slowly, methodically. Not because I was trying to be neat, but because I didn't want to hear her coming. But I did. Her footsteps, sharp and determined, came pounding down the hallway like the warning before a storm. Our bedroom door flung open. You're really doing this, Jessica snapped. With her, I didn't stop packing. Just slid a pair of jeans into the suitcase, zipped one side closed. I told you. The flight's at 2. She crossed the room in seconds, planting herself between me and the suitcase like her body might somehow change my mind. Mark, she's my best friend. You already said that, I replied calmly. And I already told you she's not anymore. You think this is funny? Her voice cracked with fury. You think dragging my friend into this is some kind of poetic revenge? I met her eyes. No, I think you treated this marriage like a prop. And now you're surprised the show's over. Jessica's face twisted, her composure crumbling. You don't get to walk away like this. You don't get to rewrite the narrative. I reached past her, grabbed a belt off the dresser. I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just done being an extra in your story. She threw her hands up. So that's it. One bad fight. And now you're running off with someone who compliments your beard and listens to your dumb stories about drywall? I chuckled, not out of humor, but because the desperation was showing. Ashley listens because she cares. Because she remembers I exist when I walk into a room. Don't be dramatic. No, Jess. I've been quiet. Not dramatic. Not confrontational. Just quiet. For months. Maybe years. And you love that. Because quiet meant compliant. She blinked, thrown. I used to think you were just tired. That maybe the stress of work, or getting older, or, I don't know, something, made you cold. But now I realize it wasn't that. I closed the suitcase. It was arrogance. You thought I'd never leave. She took a step forward, hands clenched. You think you're the victim here? You think Ashley's going to be some kind of upgrade? I paused at the door. I don't know. But she already feels like less of a stranger than the woman I've been married to. Jessica's breath caught. She stared at me like she couldn't decide whether to scream or cry. You're pathetic. I gave a small nod. Maybe, but I'm not the one begging a man to stay after telling him to go. She lunged then, not physically, but verbally. If you walk out that door, I swear, you'll what? I asked softly. Be lonely in the house you already made cold. We stood there, staring at each other across a decade of shared history. Birthdays, job promotions, quiet Sunday mornings. It should have meant more. But all I saw in her eyes now was panic, not love. I stepped around her, suitcase in hand. You're going to regret this, she whispered. I didn't look back. You already do. And I walked out. Calm. Finished. In the driveway, the Texas heat pressed against my skin like a brand new beginning. I tossed the suitcase in the back seat of the truck and climbed in, my hands surprisingly steady on the wheel. As I pulled away from the curb, I glanced once in the rearview mirror. Jessica stood in the window, arms crossed, robe fluttering slightly from the AC vent. No tears, no waving, just a woman watching the end of her power walk away. The airport was humming with its usual soft chaos, rolling suitcases, coffee-fueled conversations, the occasional overhead announcement that no one really listened to. I parked near gate A19, 20 minutes early, luggage wheeled behind me like a reluctant shadow. Ashley texted, "Just parked. Be there in 5. Should I bring coffee or scandal?" I couldn't help it. I laughed out loud. For the first time in days, the sound didn't feel forced. She arrived exactly 5 minutes later, wearing a loose white tee, joggers, and a smile that managed to disarm me in ways Jessica never could. Her hair was pulled up in a casual bun, sunglasses perched on top like some afterthought. "There he is," she said, stepping close, not quite hugging me. But there was an ease, like we'd been doing this forever. "You look calm," I said. She tilted her head. "You sound surprised." "I am. I was expecting judgment. Or nerves. Or at least a raised eyebrow." Ashley chuckled, pulling her rolling bag beside mine. "Oh, don't worry. I've got plenty of judgment stored up for the flight. But first, how are you?" How was I? I wanted to say fine, the way I'd trained myself to for years. But her eyes were too direct, too safe. Honestly, I exhaled. I feel like I just climbed out of a house that was quietly burning for a decade. Ashley nodded slowly, no trace of mockery. That's about what it looked like. We checked in without fuss, and as we walked toward security, she glanced sideways at me. "You okay flying with a criminal?" I blinked. "You rob a bank?" "No," she grinned. "But I did knowingly accept an invitation to a luxury weekend from a married man, whose wife used to send me holiday cards." "That's fair," I admitted. She said. "She's not your wife anymore. Not in the ways that count." Those words landed softly. Not a threat. Not a promise. Just a truth I didn't realize I needed to hear. We sat in those uncomfortable black seats near the gate, waiting to board, and she handed me a muffin from her bag. Blueberry. My favorite. Jessica never remembered that. "Don't take this the wrong way," Ashley said. "But you look lighter already." I gave a dry smile. I left 15 years of resentment on the driveway this morning. Must have shaved a few pounds off. She laughed, then paused. "Seriously though, you've been holding it together for so long, I thought you might snap." "I did," I said, but not the way she expected. Ashley sipped her iced coffee. "Jessica thought you'd yell, fight, throw plates." Instead, I packed a suitcase and made a call. "To me. To you." Her eyes softened. "You didn't have to pick me, you know. You could have called anyone." "I didn't want anyone else," I said, quieter than I meant. A pause stretched between us, gentle, not awkward. Finally, the gate agent called our row. As we stood, Ashley looked at me seriously for the first time all morning. "Whatever this weekend is, recovery, rebellion, or just a chance to breathe, I'm here for it. No pressure. No expectations." I nodded. "That's all I need." As we walked down the jet bridge together, I felt it. That strange, fragile sensation I hadn't touched in years. Relief. The sun in Sedona didn't just shine. It poured down like honey, thick and golden, draping itself across the red rock cliffs like it had nowhere better to be. I'd seen photos before, but standing there in it, it hit different. The desert wasn't loud. It didn't demand attention. It just was. Powerful in its stillness. Kind of like the version of myself I was trying to find again. Ashley stood next to me on the resort balcony, both of us leaning on the railing, letting the warmth seep into our bones. "This place," she murmured, "looks like it was painted by someone emotionally stable." I chuckled. "So not us." She grinned. "Exactly." The room was over the top, vaulted ceiling, stone fireplace, a little sitting area with 2 armchairs angled toward a wall of glass that opened to the canyon view. Everything smelled like citrus and sage. Jessica would have complained about the rustic vibe, said the earth tones were too muddy. Ashley, on the other hand, had already kicked off her shoes and curled into one of the chairs like she belonged there. "I still can't believe you actually did it," she said, tossing me a cold can of sparkling water. "Just walked out." I opened it slowly. "Neither can I." She studied me for a moment. "You don't look broken." "I'm not," I said. "Not yet, anyway." "Think you'll call her?" "Jessica?" "No." Ashley nodded. "Good." She didn't press. Didn't ask if I missed her, or if I was sure, or if I had some secret hope that this was just a break and not the end. That was the thing about Ashley. She wasn't interested in steering. She just held space. After a while, we took a walk around the property. The trail looped past sandstone formations and cactus gardens, with little benches tucked into quiet corners. We talked about small things, how the flight turbulence had nearly spilled her coffee, why airplane pretzels always taste like regret, how her cousin in Flagstaff swore Sedona was a vortex for healing energy. When we got back to the room, Ashley flopped onto the bed and held up her phone. You mind if I post a selfie? I hesitated. She must have sensed it, because she added quickly, just us smiling. Nothing wild. We don't have to tag the location. I thought about it. About Jessica's voice in my ear, saying things like, you're not really the social media type. Or worse, accusing me of trying to make a statement. But maybe I was. Maybe it wasn't about revenge. Maybe it was about reclaiming something. I sat down beside her and leaned in slightly. Let's give her a reason to regret. Ashley raised an eyebrow. You sure? Yeah, I said. Take the picture. She angled the phone, the late afternoon light catching her cheek just right. I managed a real smile, small, but not forced. The kind that said I'm still here. The shutter clicked. She stared at it for a moment, then nodded in approval. You look free. Caption it. I said, something vague. Let her imagination do the work. Ashley smirked. How about, healing isn't linear, but it starts somewhere. Perfect. She posted it. We sat back, watching the sky blush pink over the cliffs. You ever think, she asked softly, that maybe heartbreak isn't a failure? Maybe it's just a turning point. I didn't answer right away. Just watched a hawk circle high above the rocks, wings wide, drifting on invisible currents. Yeah, I said finally. And maybe sometimes, it's exactly what you need to remember who you were before the damage. Ashley clinked her chin gently against mine. To remembering. And for the first time in longer than I could admit, I didn't feel alone in it. The photo had been up for all of 10 minutes when my phone started ringing. Blocked number. I let it ring once, twice, then answered without saying a word. There was a pause, just breathing on the other end. Then, her voice. You think this is cute, Jessica? I turned away from the resort window and sat on the edge of the bed. Hello to you too. You really want the world thinking you're on a vacation with her? She didn't say Ashley's name. Like avoiding it gave her back some control. But the venom in her voice was unmistakable. She is my friend, I said. Calm. Even. And I did offer the trip to my wife first. Oh, don't play the saint now, Mark. No playing. Just facts. Jessica scoffed. You really expect me to believe this isn't some pathetic midlife crisis? Some look what you're missing move? I rubbed the bridge of my nose, let her rant. The words poured out fast, sharp, meant to cut, but they didn't land the way they used to. You didn't even have the decency to tell me you were still going, she hissed. I did, I said, staring out at the horizon. You just weren't listening. There was silence for a moment. I imagined her pacing our kitchen, phone clutched tight, biting her lip the way she did when things slipped out of her grip. You humiliated me, Mark. I exhaled. No, you did that all on your own. When you shrugged off the trip. When you told me to go alone. When you forgot I was standing there at all. Her voice wobbled. Just slightly. So this is your way of punishing me. I stood, walked to the balcony door, slid it open. The desert air met my skin like an old friend. No, Jess. This is my way of letting go. Letting go, she repeated. Of what? Us. I didn't answer. She knew. She filled the silence fast. It's not that simple. You don't just erase 10 years, Mark. I'm not trying to erase them, I said softly. I'm just done pretending they still mean something to you. That's not fair. I spent years playing fair. You spent them playing cold. Another beat of silence. Did you sleep with her? There it was. The accusation. The grasp at moral high ground. I leaned against the doorframe. I'm not answering that. She snapped. Why not? Guilty? No, I said. Because that's not the question you should be asking. A pause. Then what is? Why you waited until I left to care? I heard a shaky breath. This isn't like you. I know, I said. And maybe that's the problem. Like me, was the guy who accepted everything. Who smiled through silence and thanked you for the crumbs. You're angry. I was, I admitted. But now? I'm just tired. Jessica's voice dropped to something quieter. Not soft, strategic. You can still come home, you know. I didn't reply. We could talk. About everything. I walked back inside, closing the balcony door behind me. Ashley was still outside, feet propped on the railing, lost in a book, completely at ease. We're talking now, I said. That's not what I meant. I sat on the bed again. Then say what you meant. She didn't. Instead, I heard a frustrated sigh, followed by, you're going to regret this. Maybe, I said, already feeling the truth rise up firm and rooted. But at least I'll be free. Jessica's voice cracked like she wanted to say more, maybe walk back the thread, maybe offer softness she hadn't touched in years, but nothing came. So I said it for her. Goodbye, Jess. And I hung up. The screen faded to black in my hand. No anger. No shaking. Just quiet. Ashley stepped in a few minutes later, sunglasses still on, carrying 2 bottles of water and a paper bag that smelled like cinnamon. Everything okay? She asked. I nodded. Better than okay. She held out the bag. Then eat this. Cinnamon rolls cure everything. I smiled, a small one, but real. You might be right. We sat there on the couch in the soft late afternoon light, the air still warm from the sun. And just like that, the silence between us felt nothing like the kind I used to endure. This silence felt earned. The second night at the resort felt different. Not because of anything dramatic, no fiery confessions, no sweeping gestures, but because of the kind of quiet that didn't hurt. We sat out on the balcony again, the desert cooling down just enough to make you forget the sun had ever been harsh. Ashley pulled the blanket off the armchair and wrapped it around her legs, curling up beside me with a glass of wine. Do you ever think, she asked softly, that maybe love isn't supposed to feel like war? I turned the glass in my hand, watching the wine swirl. I think I forgot what it's supposed to feel like at all. She didn't press. She just sipped and waited. I used to think marriage meant loyalty, I added. Not just fidelity. I mean, showing up. Caring enough to ask how someone's doing. Not making them beg to be seen. Ashley nodded slowly. That's not a lot to ask. It felt like too much with her. She glanced at me, her eyes warm but not pitying. What does it feel like right now? I looked around, the soft flicker of the lantern between us, the faint hum of cicadas in the distance, the cool air brushing my skin. My body didn't feel tense. My jaw wasn't clenched. Peaceful, I said, like breathing with both lungs again. She smiled. That's something, right? I studied her face. She wasn't just easy to talk to. She was present. The kind of present that made you want to slow down. The kind of presence I hadn't known I'd missed. You've always been good at this, I said. At what? Knowing when to speak and when not to. Ashley tilted her head. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. A pause settled between us. Thick, but not uncomfortable. She shifted her legs, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Can I ask you something? Anything. Are you still hoping she changes? That question hung there like smoke. I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure until that moment. No, I said quietly. I think I'm finally hoping I change. Ashley reached out and placed her hand over mine. Just that. No squeezing, no drawing attention to it. Just presence. I didn't pull away. Much later, after she'd gone to her room and I was alone, I sat by the fireplace with my phone in hand. I stared at it for a while, thumb hovering over one contact, Daniel Briggs. My lawyer. We'd played college ball together, drifted apart, but I remembered him saying, if you ever need to end something big and complicated, call me. I'm clean, I'm quiet, and I don't mess around. I tapped the screen. He answered on the second ring. Mark? Wow. Long time. What's going on? I swallowed once, twice. I need to start a divorce. Quietly. No games. There was a pause. You sure? For the first time in a long time, I said, yeah. Okay. I'll send over what you need. We'll keep it sharp and respectful. Thanks, man. We hung up. And just like that, the weight shifted. It wasn't like flipping a switch. It was more like placing the final piece in a long, quiet puzzle I didn't know I'd been building. I looked around the room. The stone walls, the soft crackle of firewood, the desert night waiting just outside the window. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Resolved. 3 days after the Sedona trip, I was back in Dallas. Not home, just back. The house felt smaller somehow. Quieter, yes, but also hollow. Like a place I'd once lived in during another life. My bags were still in the truck. I wasn't sure if I was coming back for good or just passing through. I only returned for one thing. Closure. That was the plan anyway. But Jessica had other ideas. She must have seen my truck in the driveway, because by the time I stepped inside, she was already waiting in the living room. Hair brushed, eyes red, wrapped in the same robe she'd worn the morning I left. Mark, she breathed, standing slowly. I said nothing. She took a step forward. You look tired. I didn't respond. I just stared at her, waiting. She reached for my arm, hesitated, then dropped her hand. I haven't been sleeping. I keep hearing the door open at night, thinking it's you. Still, I said nothing. Jessica folded her arms, rubbing them like she was cold. I've been sick. Stomach, something. Stress, maybe. I fainted in the bathroom yesterday. There it was. The first hook. I nodded toward the hall. You should see someone. She blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. I did. They said it's exhaustion. I nodded once. Then rest. Her jaw clenched. You don't care, do you? I care that you're safe, I said. But I don't belong here anymore. Jessica's face crumpled, and suddenly she was sitting on the edge of the couch, burying her face in her hands. I know I was cruel, she said through tears. I thought I was being strong. I thought if I kept distance, we wouldn't get bored of each other. I watched the performance, except it didn't feel like one. Not entirely. Somewhere in there was sincerity. Or at least, regret. You didn't just keep distance, I said. You built walls, Jessica, and then dared me to knock them down without ever handing me a hammer. She looked up, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. I didn't think you'd actually leave. That's the thing about pushing someone, I said. You never know when they'll stop leaning back. She stood, came closer. Too close. But I'm still your wife. I'm still the woman you fell in love with. No, I said quietly. You're the woman I tried to love when she stopped trying back. A long silence passed between us. She whispered, Did you sleep with her? Don't. Did you? Don't ask questions you don't want honest answers to. Jessica's face fell. For a moment, I saw it. That flicker of something real. Not power. Not manipulation. Fear. Mark, don't throw us away. You can't undo 10 years just like that. I studied her. The robe, the tears, the half-empty water bottle on the table like a prop from a staged scene. I'm not undoing them, I said. I'm just done letting them be the reason I stay. Her voice trembled. I'll change. You won't, I replied. But even if you did, I wouldn't trust it. I turned toward the door. She stepped into my path. Wait. Just wait. 1 week. That's all I'm asking. Let me try. Let me show you. There was desperation in her eyes now. Not the kind that said I love you. The kind that said I'm scared of being alone. For the first time, I hesitated. Because beneath everything, beneath the divorce forms, the silence, the tension, there was still history. There were Christmas mornings, hospital visits, shared coffee cups. There were things that didn't just vanish because a new version of me had finally emerged. But was that enough? I stepped back. I'll think about it. It was a lie, but it was the cleanest exit I could give her. Jessica clung to that like a life raft. Thank you, she whispered. I walked out, got back in my truck, drove away. But for the first time since Sedona, my confidence wavered. Just slightly. A few days passed in limbo. Jessica's strategy shifted like clockwork. Mornings came with soft glances and fresh coffee. Evenings were quieter, less confrontation, more polite questions. She asked about work. Made my favorite pasta one night. Laughed too easily at things I barely said. It wasn't genuine warmth. It was survival instinct. I could feel it, and I let it happen. I let her think the door was cracked open. But inside, I was already gone. That Friday, I called Ashley. I need your help, I said. She didn't hesitate. We met at a quiet coffee shop just off Greenville, tucked away enough not to draw attention. She looked comfortable in her denim jacket, hair in a low bun, expression calm but curious. Jess is trying to play the sympathy card, I told her. But it's not about saving the marriage. It's about control. She doesn't want me back. She just doesn't want me to leave on my terms. Ashley stirred her drink. So what's the plan? I want the truth. All of it. I want her to say it out loud. No games, no denial. I want to hear her admit what she did. Ashley raised an eyebrow. And you think she will? If she thinks she's winning, yeah. I slid a folded piece of paper across the table. Ashley opened it. Read it. Her eyes widened slightly. You want me to invite her over? She'll come if she thinks there's a chance to reclaim me, I said. And you're the bait. She leaned back, lips curling just slightly. You know she'll go for my throat the moment she walks in. I nodded. That's exactly what I'm counting on. Ashley set the paper down and looked at me seriously. You sure about this, Mark? I held her gaze. I need it. Not to punish her. Not even to get revenge. Just to walk away with clarity. Ashley nodded slowly. All right then. Let's give her the stage. I exhaled. For the first time in days, my chest felt lighter. We stayed there a while longer, mapping out the timing, the tone, every angle. It wasn't cold. It wasn't even cruel. It was necessary. Because some betrayals aren't real until the betrayer finally speaks them out loud. And I was ready to hear it. Ashley's apartment was calm, strategically calm. She lit a lavender candle. Set out 2 glasses. Not wine, just sparkling water. Everything about the setup said peace, while the invitation she sent to Jessica said the opposite. It read, "Mark's been staying in touch. He asked me to talk. Maybe it's time we both cleared the air. Come by tonight if you want to." The message landed exactly the way we predicted. 10 minutes of silence, followed by a 3-word reply. "I'll be there." Ashley glanced at the clock. "You ready?" I nodded from the hallway, hidden just out of sight. More than ready. She opened the door at 7:06. Jessica walked in like a storm disguised in heels. Not her usual housewear. No robe, no tears this time. She'd dressed carefully. Hair sleek, eyes sharp, lips painted with something bolder than usual. "Ashley," she said coolly. Ashley stayed seated. "Jessica, thanks for coming." Jessica's eyes scanned the room, subtle but tense. "Where's Mark?" "He's not here." That answer didn't sit well. Her nostrils flared slightly. "Then why am I here?" Ashley leaned back. "I think you know." Jessica crossed her arms. "So this is your game now? Playing the savior? The woman who understands him better?" Ashley didn't flinch. "No games. Just honesty. Something this whole mess has lacked." Jessica laughed, dry, humorless. "You really think he's serious about you?" "No," Ashley said. "I think he's serious about not being hurt anymore." The room tightened. Jessica stepped closer. "You've always wanted him. Admit it." "I didn't," Ashley replied calmly. "Not until you treated him like wallpaper." Jessica's mask cracked for just a moment. "He was mine." Ashley said nothing. "You don't get to swoop in and play therapist," Jessica snapped. "You don't know what our marriage was like." "You're right," Ashley said. "But I know what it wasn't." Jessica moved to the window, turning her back briefly. Her voice dropped. "He said I didn't see him, that I stopped trying." "Did you?" Jessica spun around, and there it was. Rage and regret fighting for space on her face. "You think he was some perfect victim? He was boring. Predictable. I needed more." Ashley stayed still. Jessica's hands curled into fists. "I made mistakes. Fine. But at least I was honest with myself. He hasn't been exciting in years." Ashley's voice was soft. "So you cheated?" Jessica blinked, then smirked. "You think I waited around while he sulked through our life? I needed something real. Something passionate. And you found it?" Ashley asked. Jessica crossed her arms again, defensive now. "It's not your business." From the hallway, I stepped into the room. "It is now." Jessica froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I held the envelope in my hand. "Thanks for confirming what I already knew." She stared at it like it was a live wire. "You set me up." "No," I said. "You just finally said out loud what I needed to hear." Jessica's voice cracked. "I was angry. You were gone." "I didn't mean you did," I said. "And now I do too." I handed her the envelope. "Divorce papers. Clean. Irrevocable." Jessica didn't reach for them. She just stood there, trembling. "You said I was predictable," I said quietly. "But this? You never saw this coming." Her eyes searched mine, desperate for some flicker of hesitation. I gave her none. Ashley stood silently beside the couch, witnessing, not interfering. Jessica looked down at the papers, then back at me. "So that's it?" "No." I stepped back. "This is the beginning." I walked out without looking back. The door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in over a decade, the weight was gone. Jessica didn't sign the papers that night. Not right away, but she didn't fight them either. A week later, her lawyer called mine. No negotiations. No bargaining. Just a quiet surrender, wrapped in legal language and couriered through silence. I didn't celebrate. I didn't mourn. I just exhaled. There's a kind of relief that doesn't feel like joy. It feels like standing after being underwater too long. Your legs shake. Your lungs sting. But you're upright. That was me. Jessica moved out shortly after the papers were finalized. No dramatic exit. No friends helping her pack. From what I heard, most of them had already drifted. Even Ashley didn't say much. Just, I think people sense when the energy shifts. The energy had shifted. I ran into one of our old neighbors at the grocery store. She asked about Jessica, her voice cautious. "She okay?" I nodded. "She's adjusting." The neighbor hesitated, then said, "She seems different. Quiet." She wasn't wrong. I passed by Jessica once, weeks later, at a small farmer's market. She didn't see me. She was alone. No makeup, no forced posture. Just standing by herself near a crate of oranges, scrolling her phone with an expression I didn't recognize. Not anger. Not even sadness. Just vacancy. We never spoke again. Ashley and I never made a big announcement. There was no status update. No couples post with matching coffee mugs. We just kept being around each other, quietly, steadily. She helped me clear out the guest room one Saturday, and somehow we ended up repainting it. Not because we needed to, but because it felt good to make something new. Together, we'd sit on her porch some nights, not talking much, just watching cars pass, her hand brushing mine every now and then like a reminder I wasn't alone. She never tried to fill the space Jessica left. She just let it be what it was, and stayed. I remember one night, months after everything, we were sitting under a faded blanket with the stars out, and she turned to me and asked, "Do you ever regret how it ended?" I didn't even have to think. No, I said, only that I stayed quiet for so long. Ashley nodded. You're not quiet anymore. I looked at her, steady, kind, real. No, I said, I'm not. Jessica had her choices. I had mine. And in the end, dignity wasn't about revenge. It was about walking away when you still had a piece of yourself intact, and then building the rest back, brick by honest brick. So yeah, this is how the story ends. With one of us alone in silence, and the other finally hearing peace. And if you've ever been where I was, if you've ever begged someone to see you while you were disappearing right in front of them, then maybe you know, the hardest part isn't walking away. It's staying gone. So what would you have done? Would you have stayed and fought for something that already let go of you? Or walked away with your head high? Let me know in the comments. Because sometimes the biggest betrayal is the one we allow when we stop choosing ourselves. Like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that pull back the curtain. Until next time, stay strong, stay sharp, and don't wait too long to walk away.